Welcome to the Life You Love podcast.
We're your hosts, Grace Lemire
and Erin Convertini.
This podcast is for the dreamers and the doers.
For the women who want to create a life they genuinely love waking up to.
We believe that life's short, so let's build one we love.
We have some juicy questions for today's episode that I am super excited to get into. We asked you guys on our Instagram stories to submit questions on things that you want advice for, and we're going to read them out loud in today's episode. A lot of these are on topics like hobbies, routines, moving to a new city in your 20s, and so much more. So let's get into them.
I love that we're doing this episode. Y'all submitted some juicy ones. I will say, like, we were looking at these before we got on and I was like, okay, juicy in terms of just like, you gave us a lot of context and detail. And I am a woman of detail. Like, I want to know, you know what I mean? When you're telling me a story, you're asking for advice. Like, what was the weather like? What were you wearing? Where were we? What is the context, you know? And I also think it's fun to just hear like what things are top of mind for everyone who listens to this podcast and what things you're struggling with or trying to work through as we think through other episodes to do. Do you want to dive straight into the first one?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll read the first one. Okay, so a lot of these topics, like I said, were kind of on the same themes almost. So we like packaged them all into this episode, and then we're going to do a part 2 that was on another type of theme, which is more like business and money and all of that. But for this episode, we have a lot of questions that are on things like fun and hobbies and routines and just like fun lifestyle things. So this first question that we have here is, do you have any tips for enjoying spending money for fun? I currently save and invest around half of my income, but I struggle with justifying fun purchases like shopping or eating out. I know I can afford to do these things, but I just feel guilty sometimes.
Okay, I used to feel the same way. And if you go like very far back on my content, you'll actually see it in my budgeting content where I mean, part of it was because I had student loan debt up to my eyeballs. And so I wanted to pay it off, but I would give myself a fun budget of like $400. I've talked about it on the podcast.
That's crazy.
It was insane. And that included, mind you, like if I needed shampoo or conditioner, if I wanted to dine out with my friends, any entertainment, any clothes I bought, any makeup I bought, like anything that was like non-essential, $400 a month. Granted, I was living at home at my parents' house at the time, so like I was trying to be more frugal, if you will. But what I found was, I mean, I guess there's a couple things with this. What I found was that when I restricted so heavily on fun, I could do it for a short sprint, like for a season. But then once I let up on the brakes a little bit, I went balls to the walls, for lack of a better word. Like I'd be like, I'm going to go on a shopping spree or whatever. And it wasn't like I spent an outrageous amount of money, but because I would restrict so hard, then I would just like spend so hard. So it kind of evened out in a way. Granted, like I said, I would be more frugal for like a few months at a time and then have a little like blip and then be more frugal for a few months. But I also think this goes back to the whole like ethos of our podcast being a life you love. And it's like, what does a life you love actually look like to you? And I guarantee you it isn't one where you're being so frugal all of the time and never allowing yourself to spend on fun. And the reason that you work is to be able to live a life that you enjoy. So if at the end of the day you're working and you're not enjoying the life that you're living, you're not using your money as a tool to build the life you love, it's like, what is the point, you know? So I think the way that what helped me was I started just giving myself a reasonable budget for it. So I ran the numbers on the back end. I think you said you're like investing around half your income and saving around half your income. I would also consider what your goal is there. Like, what are you working toward? Like, what's the point of saving and investing it? Is it for a specific goal, or are you saving out of like scarcity because you think everything's going to fall apart? Like, what are we putting it towards? What's the reason? But I would give yourself like run the numbers on the back end to be like, okay, my goal is to retire with this much. Here's what I'm investing to be able to get there. Or, you know, I want to retire by this age. I'm investing this much because it helps me get to here, or I'm saving for these specific goals. And this is how much I need to save each month. Like, really check your numbers to make sure they're getting you towards where you want to be. And then once you know that those numbers are set, give yourself a reasonable budget for fun. Like if you're investing, let's say you make $5,000 a month post-tax and you're investing $2,500 because you're investing like half or saving half, you can give yourself like a $500 budget for fun every month. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think it's much better because like I said, I feel like if you restrict it too much, you're going to go off the deep end at some point. Like at some point you're going to be so tired of the restriction. You also don't have to feel guilty. Don't feel guilty for spending on yourself. What the life?
No guilt.
I know it sounds, it's a whole like so cheesy thing, but it's like we're on a floating freaking rock, y'all. Go get a $6 coffee here and there. You know what I mean? Be smart with your money, but like go get the coffee. Go live, go travel, do some fun experiences, get clear on what makes you happy and be okay spending your money on it. Like, you don't win an award because you never spend on fun or because you retire 5 years sooner than someone else. Like, it has to be a life that you actually enjoy living, that when you get to like 65 and you're retired, you're like, yeah, I actually like lived my life too. I didn't just like always save for a rainy day.
I also want to say that, because I totally agree with all of that, I also want to say that your idea of spending money on fun doesn't have to look like somebody else's. And if you have this idea of like, okay, me spending money on fun is shopping and going out to expensive dinners, you might not value either of those things. Like, maybe you're not super into clothes and you feel like you should be shopping because everybody else is spending their money shopping, but then you try to go shopping and you're like, I freaking hate the mall. Like, I don't even need anything. And I like just keeping my capsule wardrobe and going about my day. Or eating out. You might not enjoy going to expensive restaurants, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't spend money on yourself at all. It just means that you need to find the things that truly add value to your life and spend more money on those things. Like, I think that a person in a situation like this should maybe start by spending more money on experiences rather than material things. So maybe you're challenging yourself to get out of your house more, go buy a ticket for something, go on a trip, go do something, because I feel like that's going to give you a better perspective on what actually adds value to your life and then what doesn't. I also think it's important when it comes to spending money is to stop living with such regret over purchases that don't work out. Like, if you are sitting here saying that you want to spend more money shopping and you go buy things and then you don't end up wearing them because like that's not your style, or you don't actually like clothes as much as you thought you did, like, so be it. You just learned something from that purchase. You just learned that you don't like shopping and you don't like spending your money shopping. Who cares? Like, stop living with so much regrets. Nothing's that deep. Anything that's tracked, like, you're able to just learn something from that and yeah, go about your day, because we're all just learning as we go. I think the other piece of advice I have on this is not feeling like you have to spend your entire fun budget every month, but rather like putting it away to save for something bigger, even if you don't know what that bigger thing is yet. So, for example, if you're sitting here saying, I save and invest around half of my income, but I really want to give myself like a $500 fun budget a month. Well, let's say you don't have anything this month that you really want to spend your money on. Instead of going and trying to find something fun to spend your money on, put it into, I literally have a sinking fund in my savings account called Fun Money, and I put money into it. And then when there's something big that I want to splurge on that maybe is a dumb purchase, but I want it and who cares, I take the money out of my Fun Money sinking fund. And it could be anything from, I bought my Breville, I don't even know what else. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I put money into my Fun Money sinking fund all the time. And I feel like that's a good way to force yourself to save for future fun.
I have the same thing. I have a fun money sinking fund as well. I saw you do it and I was like, that's really smart, because I also would feel guilty about spending on fun things or justifying a bigger purchase. And like, yeah. And I'm just like, now I can just pull from it and it's not that deep. Like, just for things that I feel like are not even like always like silly purchases, but sometimes like I want to buy something extra for my apartment that I don't necessarily need, but like I want, and I'll just like pull it from there. Or I know like I really wanted this Coach purse and I ended up getting it as a gift, but I was like, oh, maybe I can like just use my fun money. It was like 250 or something for a bag, but it's like I'll have it forever. But I was like, I like could use my fun money to buy that, or if I want to, yeah, splurge on something nice like that I don't want to pull from my budget, I have it there. Okay, the next question is, there's a story behind it, so I'm going to read the story and then we'll give some advice. So okay, hi, I'm looking for some friendship advice. I'm part of this group of 4 girls, and we all met about 2 years ago when we were all new to the city. We have gotten really close, and I would say they are my closest friends now. However, one of the girls I'm definitely less close with than the other two, and recently she's really been grinding my gears. I feel she always makes conversations about herself and the issues she's dealing with. She complains about the same things and can kind of be a bummer to hang with because she usually brings down the mood. She's not as into going out or physical activities as the rest of us, and often I feel like she holds us back, or we accommodate plans to fit with her comfort. She has chronic mental health issues she has been struggling with since high school and doesn't have the best relationship with her self image either. So I want to support her because she's a friend, but also it's hard to spend time with her and I feel so guilty, but I'm often relieved when she cancels plans or doesn't show up to group gatherings. I feel like a terrible friend, but I'm just not vibing with her right now. However, I feel like our group has always been so good about not I don't want to swear in this podcast, but crap talking anyone and being so supportive. I feel like I can't tell my other friends how I'm feeling about the situation because I don't want to come off as mean or for them to push away from me if they don't feel the same. Do I not say anything and suck it up, or do I share how I'm feeling at risk of ruining the entire friendship?
I really love this question because I feel like people go through stuff like this all the time with friends, especially in your 20s when you're making that transition from like younger to like your older 20s. And friend groups in general are just really hard. I feel like I've been a part of like many different friend groups in my life. I want to say that both things can be true. Like, you can want to do things that she doesn't necessarily want to do while also like want to be a good friend to her. And that might look like, asking your friends, hey, do you want to go? You said that she doesn't like to do like physical activities or going out. Inviting all your friends, hey, do you want to go like do a workout class? Even if she doesn't go because she doesn't feel comfortable with it, you're not fitting what you like to do to what she's comfortable with doing. You're still going out and living your life, but while also reaching out to her one-on-one, checking in on how she's doing, and maybe asking her to like do one-on-one plans that you know that she's comfortable with. Like, you can still be a good friend to her while also recognizing that you like doing things that she doesn't necessarily like doing as well. And I feel like you learn like as you get older that the whole friend group thing like really starts to like, I know that I have way more one-on-one friends now than I do like big friend groups. And I feel like that's just kind of like a part of growing up, because everyone starts to become themselves and people get like more confident in like who they are and their activities and what they like to do. And sometimes that doesn't mesh with the entire friend group. So you'll notice that like some girls start hanging out one-on-one more, and some girls like don't hang out one-on-one, but they still hang out when the whole group gets together. So I think both things can be true. I think that you can still try to like make an effort to be a good friend while also not doing the things that you love just because she might not love those things or feel comfortable with those things.
I agree with everything. First, I do love this question, and I so appreciate like all of the vulnerability in it, because it is such a real thing that I think a lot of people go through, where just like we're all in different seasons of our lives, and there's going to be seasons that are better and seasons that are worse. And it sounds like this friend in particular is going through a season that is more challenging, I think. So, and this is coming from a perspective of someone who I feel like at one point was the friend who was struggling so much with my mental health that I was just like, I don't feel up for a lot of things. Like, I don't really want to go and do all these things. And not that I'm just being like a little gray cloud that's just like following the group around, but just like I've been on both sides, I guess, of the equation here. I think a couple things. One is like, do you not jive with this person because like at their core, you just like, you aren't into the same things. Maybe you don't have similar values, like aside from any like, quote unquote negative energy that might be coming from the mental health struggles. Is it just like, yeah, like I like to go out and do outdoorsy things and like she doesn't, and I care more about like these things and she doesn't really care about them, and so like we really wouldn't be close friends regardless, like because we're just very different people. And if that is the case, I feel like it's just not someone that you're going to be closer with. And so like you can maintain proximity in that friend group, but maybe invest in other friendships elsewhere with people who have more similar values. If it's a situation where it's like, I think the reason why she doesn't want to do the things that we're all doing is simply because of like where she's at mental health wise. I think there's a couple things here. One, as much as you, like you were saying, you want to be a good friend and like, be there to support her, whatever, you also have to have your own boundaries on what you can and can't do. And mental health is such a complex thing that you can be there to support, but you can't like fix it for them. And at some point, being the support, like you can't be like the leg that they are standing on. You can just be there to like be a listening ear, but the person who's struggling ultimately has to do the work. But you also have to have a boundary around how much you're going to be there for that person. Yeah. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. But I also think too, like, I don't know, I just think friendships change and shift and grow. And it's okay to realize like, this isn't a friendship for me. And that's okay. And I don't think you're a bad person for being like, you know what, this isn't someone that I want to be super close to. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a difference between like quote unquote retaliating against someone who has mental health issues and like, you know, is in a season where they're just more like low energy and, you know, maybe more negative or whatever. And I don't think that's what's happening here at all. But I can understand that feeling of like, I feel bad that I don't really like her or I don't really want to be around her, but like it is also valid at the same time. So I also think too, just finding other friendships as well that are like more aligned with who you are and where you're at is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. It's very valid to be, I don't want to use the word like upset, but it is very valid to be like upset when there's someone in the friend group that is like constantly talking negatively, because that does bring down your energy, and your energy is so important. And like having friends that are very positive and like not bringing that energy down, like you never want to leave a situation where you're hanging out with your friends and like feel worse than you felt when you like got to the dinner or got to whatever you guys were doing. So like that is a valid feeling, and you're allowed to feel that, and you're not a bad person for feeling that. But I agree. I think even though you're still close with the other two girls, making new friendships is never a bad thing. It's always a good thing. I think it's always good to like pour energy into new relationships, and you might find that there's people out there that you jive even more with. And not saying that you're going to be less close with your current friends, but like I said, as you get older, it becomes less of a friend group thing and more of like, I have a bunch of friends and they're all equally as important to me, but I do some things with this friend, I do some things with this friend, I go to this friend for this type of advice, and I talk to this thing with that friend. So I think all of that is justified, and you don't have to feel bad for it.
I also want to add too, I meant to say this earlier, like because like I said, I've been the person who was struggling a lot with mental health issues and felt like when you're the therapist I work with used to describe it as like it feels like an elephant sitting on your chest when you have that like terrible anxiety. And it was like that feeling so yeah, as I'm navigating the world and like hanging out with friends and going to classes and trying to do fun things, I'm in a state of like super intense anxiety. It's very difficult to show up and just like be super positive and like want to do all of the things when that's how you feel. And what was helpful for me, I don't know if any of my friends ever felt like similar in this way, but I mean, I had all the things. I would poor self-image, the whole like everything this person kind of described. But I think there were people who kind of like talked to me and were like, you know, like I'm really like concerned about you. Like I feel like every time, you know, like I feel like when I see you, like you know, it just seems like your anxiety is getting worse. Like, you know, like how can I support you? And those conversations, even if I didn't know in the moment of like, okay, I don't really know how you can support me, it was just good to know like somebody was there. And that actually took a lot of the weight like off, made me feel like, okay, I can show up to these things because they know that I'm not coming to it as my whole self. And neither of us like that, right? Like I want to feel good and they want me to feel good too, so I can be, you know, happier. But if this is a person, going back to what I was saying before about like, is this a person that you actually like would want to be friends with? Like you have similar values and you think that this is just kind of like throwing things off right now because this person is struggling. And if that is the case, like maybe have a conversation and just be like, hey, like I feel like, you know, every time we hang out, you just don't seem like your full self. And I know you've been struggling, and I just wanted you to know that like I'm here for you, and like how can I support you? And ask the question of how can I support you, not like let me know if there's anything I can do, because when you say let me know, you immediately no one's going to be like, oh, I want you to do this for me or whatever, but just being like, how can I support you? And also too, one thing that helped me was when my friends would invite me to things that they knew I needed, or like would want to go to. Like I had a friend who would be like, we're all going to the dining hall right now. And I'd be like, okay. And I would be so anxious. I was like not eating. And so he's like, let's go. He's like, put your shoes on. Let's go. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to go. He's like, well, you don't have a choice. We're going, like out we go. Or he'd be like, okay, we're all going here. And like, he's like, you're going to come, right? And I'd be like, well, I guess so. But, and it was always like joking, like he's not going to actually force me if I don't want to, but he'd be like, well, I want you to come. I think you should come. And it was things that I think they knew that I would be up for, or things I needed. So like maybe if this girl is not the most outdoorsy or like likes to do things or going out, I don't remember, physical activities, like maybe you're like, oh, like if you both work from home, like want to go work from a coffee shop today. So like maybe she gets out of the house and she feels like, you know, she's out and about and you're grabbing coffee, but it's something that's more up her alley. I just think it's a layered thing. It's nuanced because mental health is like thrown into the mix here. But I mean, I think it's valid. I don't think you're a bad person at all for being like, she is a bit of a bummer to be around. I think it's fair. I think both things can be true. You can have empathy for someone and be like, hey, this isn't someone I want to like be around all the time.
Totally agree. Friendships are always difficult to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely something that I have been learning in my 20s, going through many different friendships and having a lot of friends from different phases of my life. But let's go
Mm-hmm.
into the next one on a lighter note. Any tips for eating at home more? I want to eat dinner at home Monday through Friday, and it has yet to happen because I can't figure out how to grocery shop correctly. I always try to spend as little as possible, and I think that's holding me back from actually having meals that I enjoy.
I feel like, I think well, first of all, you have to have meals that you enjoy. So I think I would spend more on groceries. I don't know if that's crazy to say. I would just spend a little bit more on groceries, to be honest, because I mean, the amount that you're probably spending I'm assuming you're eating out instead. You might be like eating
Yeah, if that
elsewhere,
has
like,
yet to happen, that you're eating at
yeah,
home Monday through
yeah. I'm
Friday.
assuming you're like buying food out. You're definitely spending way more on food out than if you just bought stuff at the grocery store. I think like, yeah, have things you enjoy. Like spend more on groceries. I think that's part of it. I think also too, sometimes I used to ingredient prep and that was really helpful for me. So I would kind of pick like certain things to prep ahead. If you go on TikTok and you type in like ingredient prepping, there's like a lot of like cool ideas. But also the idea is to prep, I feel like I didn't explain this. The idea is to prep ingredients that you can like put into meals so that you kind of have something different every day and you're not like eating the same stuff, but like you have a lot of it prepped so it makes eating at home a lot easier. But also, there's nothing bad about going for the quote unquote like convenience things if cooking dinner at home feels like you want to eat dinner at home to save money or whatever or eat healthier, but it feels like such a big lift. Like I buy a lot of frozen vegetables. I don't know the last time I bought a fresh head of broccoli. I just get the frozen broccoli. It's the same thing. We talked about this on our episode with the dietitian. Like it's the same thing. I throw it in the microwave for 5 minutes. Boom, I have steamed broccoli. Like makes my life easier. I've been buying rotisserie chicken recently and just like pulling that apart instead of like slow roasting chicken breast. Like it's okay to buy stuff like that. But yeah, I would just spend more on groceries, to be honest. Like, why not? You
Yeah,
don't
I
have
have
to spend
a
$500 at Whole Foods. Just like buy some extra stuff.
For sure. I think there's like two sides of this coin. The one is like, okay, you get to the end of the day and you have something in the fridge that you were going to cook, but now you're feeling lazy and don't want to like chop up all of the veggies and roast them because I do that all the time too. And yeah, having those convenience things is so helpful. But then I think on the other side of that coin is you're just feeling bored with the foods that you have. So you don't want to cook at the end of the day because you're like not excited about it. And for that, I think you need to romanticize your routine a little bit. Like everyone always says to save money on groceries, only go to the grocery store once a week. And I think that that's like BS. I go to the grocery store multiple times a week because I'm like, if I'm craving one thing that I want to make for dinner tonight, like go to the freaking store and spend $20 on the ingredients because it's going to make 4 servings and you can eat it for the next 4 nights. And like pour yourself a Diet Coke in a wine glass and make sure your kitchen's all cooked and freaking cook the meal. Like who cares? My boyfriend and I do this all the time too because we love to cook together, which cooking with someone else is significantly more fun than cooking alone. But like if we're not together, I'll like call him on the phone when I'm cooking if I'm bored or whatever. But that's besides the point. But we go to the store like all the time when we're together because we want to like get ingredients for the meal that we're excited to eat that night. So yeah, if you're trying to eat at home more but you're trying to save money on groceries, but then you end up just like getting Uber Eats, you're not saving any money. You're spending way more money going out to eat. Because
Yeah.
again, even if you go to the store for the ingredients, that's going to make multiple servings for meals. And then you can eat it for the next couple of days.
I also think when it comes to the grocery shopping correctly thing, what helps me is before I shop, I take an inventory of what I have in my apartment already, like in my pantry and my freezer and my fridge. And I'm like, okay, what do I already have? And like, what meals can I start to create? So if I have like, I don't know, if I have a frozen thing of broccoli in the freezer and I have a sweet potato, I'm like, oh, okay, I can buy steak and do steak with sweet potatoes and broccoli. And then there we go. There's a meal right there. And then I make my list and I know like, okay, that's what I need to buy. When I don't really have anything, then I'm kind of like, okay, I have a lot of random things I can't really make anything from. I don't have a starting point. I usually just go with like I'll buy like 3 different proteins, so like a ground turkey, ground pork, steak or something, or ground beef. And then I'll buy a couple of veggies, like frozen bags of veggies. I'll buy a few different fruits. And then because of my food sensitivities, I don't eat a ton of carbs, but you could buy like a ton of like some carbs, some like rice, pasta, sweet potato, regular potato, whatever. And then there you go. You can mix and match those things all throughout the week. And then sauces. I know it sounds kind of like random, but like just having some sort of like sauce you can put on to something just totally changes like the whole meal. And then there you go. And it's honestly, it's like very simple.
The other thing that has helped me a lot, I feel like I've made a video about this before, is having more fun things in your pantry and freezer that you can make for like a weekend meal. And maybe it's not your goal to eat in on the weekends. Like maybe you're like, oh, I love going out to eat on the weekends. But I know for me, I still spend a lot of weekends in, and I'm not like a takeout person. Like maybe once every couple of months I'll go get takeout by myself. I do get to the weekend and I'm like, well, I don't want to eat like the chicken and rice that I've been eating all week. Like I want to make something more fun, but I still want to eat in. So I have meals that I'll make that I can like make generally with the things that are in my pantry that are just like a little bit more fun and feel like more comfort meals. The big one that I do a lot is I make my own pizzas. So you can look up the recipe on like TikTok or something, but generally flour and Greek yogurt, like equal parts, can turn into a pizza crust. And then the toppings, you basically have those in your pantry or in your fridge, like marinara sauce and mozzarella cheese, like, or I'll keep little pepperoni or whatever it may be. And so I can generally make that whenever maybe I have to go to the store for one or two things, but just keeping things around. Or the freezer section of Trader Joe's always has fun little freezer meals. They're obviously not going to be as healthy as like cooking things from scratch, but if you're talking about the difference between ordering Uber Eats and pulling something out of your freezer, that's obviously going to be a lot more cost effective. So yeah, go to Trader Joe's, look at the freezer section, and then have some things like for the weekend when you still want to eat in.
Things you're looking forward to eating also. I know when I first went gluten-free, I was like, I mean, anyone on here who has any food allergies, like your whole life you're just like, great, I'm never gonna have pasta again, or like I'm never gonna whatever. And it kind of sucks. There's like a weird grief that comes with it. And so what I used to do is I would buy, like, I'd go to like Wegmans or something and I would buy like 1 to 2 new things every week that I was excited to try. Like I'm gonna get these like gluten-free cookies this week, or these gluten-free chips or crackers, or like whatever it may be. I'm gonna try a new flavor of Poppy or Culture Pop, or like whatever. Buy something that you're like looking forward to eating, because then you like want to eat it at home. And I think then it like makes it more exciting, because then you're like, okay, what new thing am I trying this week? And it can just be like a snacky item. It doesn't have to be like a whole new recipe that you're trying and reinventing the wheel. But I think that makes it more exciting to eat at home too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's get into the next one. I love this question a lot because being consistent with a gym routine has been very, very big for me over the past like 4 or 5 years. But this one basically just says how to commit to a gym routine when you've never been to the gym. And I have a lot of thoughts on here. I think the biggest thing, you don't have to necessarily be an early morning workout person. Like I know everybody's different, and like a lot of people really enjoy working out after work. But I do think that starting to move as soon as possible in your day to some extent like really sets you up for a good tone to like have a consistent just like moving your body routine in general. So the very first thing that I do when I wake up is I usually try to like lay out my workout clothes the night before, which is really important as well, so that the first thing that I do when I wake up, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, and then I put on my workout clothes and I take my dog for a walk, like 15 to 30 minutes or whatever. And that kind of like that gives me like a switch for the entire day to be like, I'm already moving, so I'm going to keep moving. They say like objects in motion stay in motion. Whereas if I wake up and I sit down on the couch, I feel like I'm staying on the couch for the entire day, or just like, yeah, in a little bit of like a lazier mood. So I'm a workout person like first thing in the morning. So I think that definitely helps. And then the other thing that I'll say is like, even when you don't want to, we have an entire episode on motivation, but even when you don't want to, the hardest part is getting yourself there. And even if you get there and then you walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes, like who cares? You're still getting the benefit of like going and getting some movement into your body, getting into a gym routine. Like you don't have to wake up and be like, okay, I'm ready to go have the best workout in my life. Like literally just get into the routine of physically getting yourself into the gym.
I think it also has to be a workout that you enjoy. I know this person said like a gym routine. So like I'm assuming you're talking about like strength training and like lifting weights, but I think if you're going at this from the angle of movement, like what do you enjoy? It should be exercise. Yes, there's lots of reasons to exercise just for like health benefits and things. And so, just for example, like walking and running, great for cardiovascular health. Like, does everyone enjoy doing those things? No, but like heart health is important, and like we should all think about heart health and whatever. So, but I think like it should be exercise you actually enjoy. So I would create your routine to be workouts that you enjoy. And I think that helps make it more consistent. But yeah, getting yourself there is the hardest part. And a lot of people work out in the morning too, because science just shows like in the morning is when your willpower and your motivation is the highest. And so the longer the day goes on, the more likely you are to not follow through with whatever that is. And so that's why a lot of people also go in the morning, because like scientifically you're more likely to follow through then. But yeah, not everyone, myself included, is not a 5 a.m. gym girly as much as I would love to be. But yeah, just get yourself there, and also decide, this might sound I don't want to say counterintuitive because it's not quite what you're asking, but figure out what your like bare minimum is going to be. So if you're having a day where you're like, I just do not want to go to the gym. I talked about this in my cohort program recently. I talked about it as if it's like a gigantic bowling ball. And like you said, like the hardest part's getting there, like pushing the bowling ball, like when you start to push it, like imagine literally like a 10-foot bowling ball and you're trying to push it. It's so difficult to start that bowling ball to like actually get it to go. But then once it's in motion, the ball will kind of continue to roll and it becomes a lot easier for you to push it. So on a day when you really don't want to show up, like you're like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to drive to the gym. It's raining outside. It's snowing, whatever it may be. Figure out like what your bare minimum could be. Like you said, you go to the gym and you do 30 minutes on the treadmill, or you go for a walk around your neighborhood, or you do a Pilates workout on your TV, or whatever it might be. Like know what those things are so that because you don't want the ball to stop rolling. You want the ball to keep rolling, because the second it stops, it's very difficult to get the ball back rolling. And I think that also helps with consistency, because you're just continuing to put in the reps. Even if someday it's 30 reps and the next day it's 2 reps, like the point is to put some amount of reps in every day. Show up for yourself for the gym in some capacity every day.
Yeah, and the other thing that I have to say about like committing to being consistent with a gym routine is that you might not have to like train yourself as hard as you think that you have to train yourself in order to hit your goals, whatever your goals are. Obviously, like gym goals can be like such a wide variety of things, but like I go to the gym like very, very consistently, but I would say that like my workouts are usually pretty moderate. Like I'm not in there like killing myself in the gym every single day. I'm not strength training every single day. Like I take rest days where the only thing that I'm doing is like taking my dog on a walk. My bare minimum in the gym is like going and walking on the treadmill at an incline for 30 minutes and then sitting in the sauna. Like you don't have to, in order to like be consistent with getting yourself to the gym and going to the gym, you don't have to be like killing yourself in the gym all the time. I think that's a huge misconception too, and kind of makes people like afraid to just get started. So yeah, the hardest part is getting there. I think the biggest benefit comes from literally just getting yourself there every single day, because it's going to make you so much more consistent with like a lot of your other habits and routines throughout the day. But let's get into the next one. This one's an interesting one. We were talking about this a lot before we got on here, because it references the college girl lifestyle, which can mean different things for so many people. But this question says how to transition from the college girl lifestyle to being a grown woman with adult responsibilities.
I think this question is so dependent on what a college girl lifestyle is for you. And we were talking about this before I got on, because I was like, I was never the like party girl in college. It was always like, I always had like, I was working multiple jobs the whole time. I was always like doing so many different extracurriculars that like my Saturday night I would hang out with my friends, but I was like so exhausted from like the million things that I was doing. I've always been the overachiever, guys. Okay. I just had like a million things on my calendar. So, and I also just never really liked partying that much and like drinking that much. So I never had like that. I feel like when you think of like college girl lifestyle, you think like party girl, like whatever. So when I graduated college and went into like my, becoming like having more adult responsibilities, I was like, hallelujah, like thank God, because I never really enjoyed like the lifestyle that college, like that people were in. I don't know. Yeah. The way that people acted in college, I was kind of like, it wasn't really ever my thing. So I don't know. I don't really have a ton of useful advice here. I feel like Erin does.
I think I fit the like stereotypical college girl lifestyle a lot better than you do. Not that like I definitely had a lot of adult responsibilities in college, so it wasn't a big shock with that, like I also worked multiple jobs all the time in college, and like I paid my rent, but I had roommates, so like my rent was really cheap. And but I like had adult expenses just like minimized. So it was like a good intro to, like, I didn't live in a dorm room until senior year and then all of a sudden be like hit with all of these expenses. But I do think my lifestyle changed a lot from college to after college. And a big thing was just like changing the circle of people that I was surrounded by. I was in a sorority and a lot of my friends were in the same sorority as me. And we just did like go out and drink. Like we drank a lot. Like maybe this was because of COVID. I feel like COVID kind of like messed things up too, because my last 3 semesters were all remote during COVID. So I feel like all there was to do was drink because we couldn't do literally anything else. But very quickly after college, I kind of like got out of that. I was very disciplined. My first job out of college, I was working 7:30 to 5 in office. So I had to commute both ways as well. And I would go to the gym. I would get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for the gym. It was crazy. That didn't last very long. But because of that, I was going to bed super early. I wasn't drinking as much. I was traveling a lot for work. So even on the weekends, I wasn't drinking a lot. And I feel like naturally because of that, my circle of people kind of shifted a lot. And that's the summer that I met my like now circle of friends. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice is like, not saying that you can't still be friends with the people that you were with in college, and not saying that like that's a bad thing, but just like looking at what you and your friends like to do together and saying like, is this aligned with my adult lifestyle that I like want to get myself into? Because realistically, like you probably shouldn't be going out and partying as hard as you were in college when you're an adult with adult responsibilities. And the other thing that I have to say about that is if you're in a situation where in college you weren't necessarily paying a lot of adult things, like you're not paying rent, maybe you're still living in the dorm with a meal plan, do a mock budget before you get your first full-time job and get that first paycheck to make sure that your paycheck is actually going to cover all of your newfound adult expenses. Like if this is the first time you're ever paying rent in your life, like put that into a little budget spreadsheet and say like, okay, if I'm going to make $3,000 a month after taxes, I probably can't afford $2,000 a month in rent, or I'm not going to have any money left over to do literally anything else. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice is just like run the numbers and make sure the lifestyle that you're getting yourself into, your money can actually cover.
I agree. I was going to say, I think the budgeting piece is part of it. Like looking at what your grown woman with adult responsibilities life is going to look like and what those adult responsibilities are, and start to think through, because like I'm wondering if this person is like a college student who is graduating and is like thinking through how to actually like kind of step into like more adult things, I guess, although you are an adult in college, but having more adult responsibilities. I think the budgeting side of it is important, and just starting to develop systems for yourself for like keeping track of all the adult responsibilities and things, which you'll also get the hang of, like it will come with time. But
yeah.
Okay, next question. This is also one with context. Here we go. I'm currently in a 6-year relationship with my boyfriend. I love him and he loves me, but he doesn't want to get married and I do. Do I break it off now or wait to hope he changes his mind? We get along so well with our likes, dislikes, and everything else except this marriage thing and our religious beliefs. Do I break it off before I invest or stay? Girly
Okay.
pop. Okay. I'm virtually holding your hand when I say this. Here's the thing. I feel like you have to know what is important to you and what you value. And the people, in my opinion, the people who live the happiest lives are the people who remain 10 toes down on what they want. There's a video. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the show notes. It was so good. The guy basically says like the not most successful people, he uses a different word, happiest people, something like that, are people who don't negotiate with themselves. They're people who say, I want this, and I'm not going to get something that's just enough and say, oh, well, it's just enough. Like, it's enough. It's fine. It will do. Right. Like, to me, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot more context here in this situation, but if marriage is a priority to you and that's something that you really like, you want it out of life and you don't want to compromise on it, and he does not want marriage and does not want to compromise on it, at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to give, right? Like one person is going to end up dissatisfied because they're doing something that they just like really do not want to do. And obviously there's nuance to this. Like, what are the reasons behind wanting to get married? What are the reasons behind not wanting to get married? And understanding where both people are coming from. Is it just like a fear someone has to get over, or someone like doesn't feel like they're in the financial position to get married or whatever it may be. But I think if it is truly just this person wants to and this person doesn't want to, someone's going to have to compromise and someone's going to end up unhappy. And then also the layer of religious beliefs not being the same. Again, if being on the same page with your religion is something that is a priority to you and something that you want out of marriage, I don't know if the person who asked this question, I don't know if you want kids or like what you see in your future, but like, let's say you do want kids and you want to raise your kids in the faith that you have or the belief system that you have, and your partner doesn't have the same one. Like, what does that look like? What does it look like celebrating religious holidays or not celebrating them? Or, and is that the life that you want to live? And I think if the answer is no, I think you can, it sounds so harsh and I don't mean it harshly, but you can spend time trying to convince that person to become what you want, or you can find the person who's already like what you want. And I think if you can love someone who you're on such different pages with so hard, it's like, imagine how much you could love someone who's like on the same page as you. But I think it comes down to like, just like if marriage and being on the same page with religious beliefs is very important to you and it is part of your value system and like what you want out of a relationship in a future. I know it sounds so harsh, but like,
Yeah.
you owe it to yourself to find that and to have that and to not compromise things that are very, very important to you, you know?
Unfortunately, I think you do have to be on the same page with your partner on all of the big fundamental values things. For context, I'm in a relationship. I have been for a year. I like know that my boyfriend's my partner. We have talked about engagement, which will probably happen in the next 12 months, I would say. He's 33, I'm 26. And we've had, and like very, very early on, we've had the conversations about like all of the big fundamental value things because like it's long term, it's really hard to actually, it's like virtually impossible to make it work if you're on different pages about like how you see your life playing out. Like if you look into your future and you see yourself married with kids and he can't look into his future and see marriage and children, then like your lifestyles don't align. I think the biggest context that we have here is like ages, because I also will say that that could be a factor as well. Like if this is a 23 or a 24-year-old writing this and you're both 24 years old, that's a lot different if as if a 30-year-old wrote that and you guys are both 30. Because I will say, like, again, being in a relationship, especially where we have like such a big age gap, guys and girls, their timelines are so different. And I feel like men tend to not really think about like marriage and children and all of that until their late 20s, maybe even their early 30s, because they kind of don't have to think about it before then. Like for men, they want to be established in their careers. They want to like have all of their ducks in a row before all of that happens. So if you're asking like a 24-year-old boy if he's ready for marriage, like his answer probably is going to be like no. So there's like a little bit of context there and like some nuance. Obviously, like 24-year-olds get married all the time. That's like a generalization, but I think it's a conversation to have around like, okay, do you just not agree with marriage in general, or is this like a not right now type of thing? But you don't want to get to a point where, let's say like you wrote this in your late 20s, you don't want to get to a point where this guy is wasting your time until you're in your early 30s, mid 30s, and he's still not committing. And now all of a sudden your timeline looks a lot different than his timeline.
And I think also too, when you're marrying someone, you're going to be with them forever. You're choosing to build a life with that person. And so having like getting along well, having similar likes and dislikes and things are very important, but you're building, I don't want to say a new life, but you're building your own lives and a joint life together. So there's almost like 3 lives that are being built. It's like you, him, and like the life you're building together. And it's very difficult to build a life in unity together if the idea of the life that you want to build is so different. And I don't know, obviously likes and dislikes and stuff are similar. So maybe you guys have similar goals. But for example, if one person is fueled by their faith and that's like what they're, part of the life that they're building is like growing in their faith and whatever that may look like. And the other person is not there. And so they're building their life in a different direction. I feel like it's very difficult to build like intertwined with each other when you're building in different directions. So I don't know. I'm not saying like go end your relationship today, but I think it is something to think about and some hard conversations to have of like, what do you want? And yeah, I do think that age probably plays a factor here because yeah, if you're younger, there might be, but I also think it's just difficult to, I mean, I guess religious beliefs, maybe you're in the same religion, but maybe you have, or maybe you're of the same belief system, but you just have different thoughts and opinions there. I'm not sure, but I think it depends on the depth of these things. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm here for you, here for you. I totally feel for you.
Yes, never fun. Let's do one more because we're kind of running out of time here. And then we have a lot of questions around like moving to a new city in your 20s and like making friends and how to pick a city and like all of that. We have a lot of those. So maybe we'll do a follow up on this strictly on all of those questions. I feel like that would be a fun one. But okay, this last one that we're going to cover is there's kind of a lot of context here. And I like this question. Are hobbies worth the money or am I just procrastinating working? Sometimes I feel like my friends that have a lot of hobbies have no drive for work and complain about not being able to get a job. But on the flip side, I feel like I haven't been able to get into many hobbies because I'm always so stressed by all of the expenses, even though I work every day. Any work guilt slash hobby guilt advice would be appreciated. Love the pod and wish the episodes could be longer. Well, this is a long one, so
yeah, it's a long juicy one. Okay, wait. My first question is: Are your friends doing hobbies instead of working? And where are they making money? Because I would love to do hobbies all day and not work.
Okay, I have a hot take on this, and I feel like people are starting to talk about this on social media. Did you see that video that went super viral that was like that one friend that like hasn't had a job since last year, but is like post like all of her pictures on social media or whatever, and all of the photos were of her like traveling and
Oh my
like eating
gosh.
dinner and like all of that. I feel like a lot of people in their 20s, their parents still subsidize their life if they don't
Oh,
have a job.
for sure. For sure. Because I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I'm
that's
like,
true.
I know what you do for work. And I know, but I also think too a lot of people are putting out on credit cards. So I wouldn't like don't compare yourself, if you're
Yeah.
seeing like people are just traveling. The moment I remember when I was in like I think it was like late college or right after I graduated, I found out that people put like their spring break trips and things on credit cards and that I did not realize like I didn't even think about
Or
credit card debt.
afterpay.
Yeah, like
Afterpay.
I just didn't even the idea of putting something on my credit card and not paying it back like didn't even cross my mind. So then when I graduated college and I was like, "What?" Like I was like I just couldn't fathom it because I was terrified of making a wrong financial move. And it's not to judge people who did that and like made a mistake and got into credit card debt, but meaning like I started to realize, okay, when I'm looking at people on social media being like, "How do you have all these hobbies and how are you traveling and doing all these things?" It's not always from a place of they have financial abundance. Sometimes it's from a place of they're putting it on a card or they do have someone who's subsidizing the cost of it. But when it comes to work guilt and hobby guilt and like are hobbies worth the money, I think you have to decide what's worth it to you. And I think the way I think about it is like, does the money in and joy out make sense to me? Like if you watch my Instagram stories, you know I love pickleball. I've become addicted to it since moving down to Florida. I play a few times a week. I absolutely love it. I bought a pickleball paddle and I could have bought it new for like 180, but I happened to find it actually brand new still in the packaging on Facebook Marketplace and I got it for 65. To me, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't and some of the really nice paddles if you play, they're like $200 plus dollars, 250. I was like, I'm not that serious at this point in time where I need to invest $250 in a paddle. I'm just going to find one on Facebook Marketplace for less and like that feels like a good investment into this hobby for me. I am looking for some pickleball shoes though because I keep twisting my ankle in my running sneakers. So it's something that like but it's like I'm investing in it because I enjoy it and it brings me joy back. But if there were certain things that like I don't like love enough, like I'm not going to like I enjoy running, but I'm not like an avid runner, so I'm not going to invest in all of the different accessories and things for running. I do think that everyone should have hobbies, and I think that a lot of people like rotting on the couch is not a hobby. And like yes, you can be like a TV connoisseur or a movie connoisseur or whatever, but like I do think that we need to have different hobbies. I think we were meant to. I think we're meant to like be out and be in a community with people that are doing things that we enjoy. And so I do think that people should invest something into hobbies or like spending money on some sort of hobby. I think it just depends on what hobby you enjoy and finding something that you like and giving yourself a budget for it and allowing yourself to spend on it on things that like bring you joy and that are like You know what I mean? I think everyone should have hobbies. And I also think this is like a tangent, but I think it's really cool to have hobbies. You know, when you meet someone and you're like, what do you like to do? And they're like, oh, like I go sailing and I like to volunteer here and I love coffee and I like make my own like wine at home or I do this and that and the other. And I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, you're actually the coolest person ever. Like, and I
Yeah.
want to be the coolest person ever. So I'm like, I want to have hobbies,
I keep
but
seeing
they do
those
take money.
TikTok videos that are like hobbies that like get you into the right rooms, basically saying like hobbies that successful people do and like you can meet
Hmm.
successful people like doing certain hobbies. They're always like playing tennis or
It's
playing
like
golf is a
golf.
big one or yeah. But yeah, watch some of those TikTok videos if you need some ideas, but I think the truth is that nobody's working 24/7. You might be thinking about work 24/7 if you're an ambitious person, because I feel like we've been in stages like that. We were just talking in our Q3 reset about how we're like burnt out by that stage and now we're just prioritizing a lot of balance, but you might be thinking about work and making money 24/7, but realistically you're not being productive 24/7. So if you don't invest in hobbies both from a time perspective and a money perspective, you're going to be spending your time thinking about work, but just like while you're rotting on the couch. Cause I've been in phases like that too, where I don't really have much going on. I'm like watching TV in the evening, but I'm not 100% relaxing. I'm actually just sitting there super anxious about the fact that I'm sitting there doing nothing. So, yeah, get out, find some things you like to do. It doesn't have to be a bunch of like, you can go on a walk with a friend.
So there be free stuff, even with pickleball. Like, I mean, you don't have to buy the nicest paddle in the world.
No.
You can get mine's not the nicest paddle in the world, and like you can get ones. There's other ones on Facebook Marketplace for even cheaper, and it's free to go to the parks, or you can do like the walking clubs or run clubs are free.
Yeah,
There's
go
so many things.
thrifting. People have
Yeah,
taken up like sewing, which actually sounds really
hmm,
cool. And I feel like I would love to learn how to sew.
yeah. Even
But yeah,
just
there's so many
cooking,
things.
like there's so many things you can do, and I also think too that I know this person mentioned like feeling like you're not thinking about work. How'd you
Procrastinating
say it?
working.
Yeah, like procrastinating, working, or like you feel like you haven't been able to get into many hobbies because you're always so stressed by all of the expenses, even though you work every day. Going back to what we said earlier in this episode, you work to earn money to live a life that you enjoy. It has to be a life you enjoy at the end of the day. So if you know, having some little hobbies or whatever makes you love your life more and experience more joy, then figure out how you can factor that into your budget. And I think part of that is just looking at your numbers and deciding what budget for hobbies makes sense for you. But I also think if you're not taking time outside of work, like you were saying, Erin, like to enjoy hobbies, you're just going to be thinking about work all the time. And
Yeah, and
that's
that's not
also not
fun.
productive. Like thinking about work
No.
24/7 is not productive either. So,
No. Okay, well, we're going to cut it there because we've already yapped for an hour and we still have a lot of questions all on the topic of like moving to a new city in your 20s, which we will do an entire episode. Maybe we'll film that next week, Grace. We can do
yeah.
one whole episode on moving to a new city in your 20s and all of the questions related to that. But let us know in Spotify if you like these types of episodes, because these are probably the most fun for us to film because you guys give us all of the ideas for what we have to talk about. So let us know and we can definitely like submit another Google form on our Instagram stories to do these maybe like even once a month or something, because they're super fun to film. But yeah, leave us any questions, comments, feedback in Spotify, or you can DM us on Instagram at The Life You Love Pod. We love hearing from you guys. But thanks for tuning into the podcast, and until next week.